Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, where we bring you a weekly dose of powerlifting news, tips, and training advice with a touch of 80s rock ballads. This podcast is presented by Team Roar Powerlifting, your source of the most comprehensive coaching and meet day preparation. Here are your hosts, Josh Rohr and Lara Sturm.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast. We're going to do something a little bit different since you don't really know us, some of you. We're going to start being a little weird, and I would like to welcome my co-host, Lara, four-time IPF Masters World Champion, Sturm.
Awesome, and welcome to Josh Rohr, the namesake of I can't even say it. The namesake of Rohr's Lightweight Ale. That was a drink that was served at Nationals in 2018, I think.
You would use that.
There's a story behind that. We might get to that later.
Might as well start with it. You said it. Start with it.
Oh, well, so what had happened was when we were in Pilsen, Czech Republic for Masters Worlds in 2014, we were there with the Masters team, of course, Josh not being a Masters, but just a coach. Just in quotes, sorry. And we went to a bar that had a drinking game, kind of like it was scored based on how much you drank. The ounces were being tabulated for each person and each table. I just sat back and watched because I don't drink. And
I don't either.
Yeah, well, compared to other people, that would be true. So there were some very stout drinkers at our table, namely Laura Stryland, who literally drank Josh under the table. And from there, he was known as Lightweight.
It was a bloodbath. It wasn't even close, man.
It was a bloodbath. It was hilarious, though, because Josh, when he's drunk, is actually one of those funny people who's happy and fun for the most part, meets strangers, starts dancing with them and engaging them, and is everything that Josh is not when he's sober.
That's a fair assessment. So, all right, we're done with that topic. So we'll start with the Q&A. We had one of the questions came in this week, or I guess last week, is we talked about how to get started in powerlifting, but we had a question, how to get started in equipped powerlifting. So any thoughts on that?
Yes. So it's best to not know much to start with, because the more you know, the less likely you might be able to do it. Because I got tricked into it by thinking it was kind of like a bench shirt. I'm sorry, like a slingshot. Bench shirt is not like a slingshot. It's a piece of evil equipment. My advice would be to start loose. Start with learning how to wrap your own knees even. Start with briefs, start with loose equipment. And then as things go and as things progress and you get a little bit more used to things, tighten up as you go. Because it's somewhat painful and not what you think it is until you get in it.
Yeah. And I guess one thing I'll add to that, I guess how to get equipment. The big manufacturers obviously make great equipment. Titan Support Systems is my favorite. But if you're trying to dabble in it, we'll say, then I would try to find some used equipment or borrow some from, somebody that you know that has some gear that might be loose for you, so you can try it out before you actually buy it, because the stuff is expensive, and you don't want to buy the wrong stuff either. So trying out used stuff I think is a good option.
Right. Well, and I've made the mistake at sometimes thinking that tighter is always better, but that's not really true. Kind of feeling out what compression does to your body and helps you move a little bit more weight without injury is nice. And even as someone who's, when I lift, a lot of times I wear briefs just to kind of protect myself, and it feels better. Just because I'm old, and it does.
So I'll just say this real quick. Not in competition, so you can't wear the briefs in competition.
Correct.
For training, yeah.
But for training purposes,
yeah.
And there have been times where I've thought, well, I just want to get a tighter shirt because it'll make me lift more, and that's not necessarily true. So especially starting out loose and then getting tighter as you go.
Yep. I agree, for sure.
And of course, I think a coach is helpful, because a coach will kind of know when you should put it on, when you should stay raw. And I believe coaching is just a huge component of equip lifting, more so than raw.
Yeah, and just knowing how to progress with it, like you said, like you don't just put a bench shirt on and go all the way to your chest the first time. Like you learn it in stages. Same thing with a squat suit, especially if you're putting on a tight one for the first time or a new one. Like you're gonna squat high the first time, like that's okay. It just takes some practice to work getting down depth and everything. So don't expect it just to be like wearing a snug t-shirt or something like that.
Right.
It changes it.
So I think a good question would also be, why lift equipped? Because I think some people kind of see it as going over to the dark side and doing something that, oh, your body can't naturally do this, so it's cheating, is kind of what we hear sometimes, which no.
Yeah, that's a great question. I will gladly answer that one. It adds, so the thing with equipment is it doesn't lift the weight for you, contrary to popular belief. Like you don't just put it on a bench shirt and bench 100 pounds more. Probably you bench less the first time you put it on, because there is a very high level of skill that you need to learn how to use it exactly right. So, not only do you have to get stronger, but you have to get more proficient at using your equipment. So those two things go hand in hand. And to answer the why, I mean, in terms of like aches and pains and things like that, the gear is by nature very supportive. So, if you have hip issues or back issues or shoulder issues, like a lot of times, even though you're handling heavier weight, the gear actually does help you stay healthier, because it's less actual wear and tear on the joints themselves. And that's, I think a lot of people don't realize that, because all they see is it's heavier weight. But the gear doesn't do it automatically. You have to learn it and really master your technique and be a lot more precise every time. I know I already said that, but example I always use is in a bench press. Like if you're benching raw, you can get a little bit out of the groove and still usually recover. But if you get out of the groove in a bench shirt, you're screwed. So it makes you be a lot more disciplined and more precise every rep. And I think it makes you a better raw lifter too, in my opinion, because it really puts a magnifying glass on your deficiencies and your inconsistencies when you're wearing the equipment. So, if you're inconsistent, you put on gear, you're going to be really freaking inconsistent and not be able to complete the lifts. So it kind of helps correct a lot of those things, or at least make you aware of them so that you know to correct them.
Right. Yeah, I think it makes you a better lifter for sure. I was lucky to probably get into gear early in my powerlifting career, if you call it that. And I think it really helped me progress as a lifter, although I really didn't choose to go back to raw lifting. It makes you a better lifter. It makes you a lot more technical. It's like trying to perfect the perfect golf swing. It just makes you a much better lifter overall.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things, it's the fear of the unknown. Like to the people that have never tried it, it's weird, it's cheating, it's doing the work for you and all those things, until you actually try it and realize how much actually goes into it. And, it adds, even from a coaching standpoint, it adds so many other dynamics, because, if you miss a squat, on depth or even on strength, like you can make adjustments to the equipment as a coach to kind of compensate for that. So, if you're having trouble getting depth, maybe the knee wraps are too tight. If you're getting stuck, coming out of the hole, maybe you need to, put the straps higher on your traps to make them tighter as you go down. I mean, whatever it is, it just adds a lot of other variables that makes it a lot more fun as a coach too, I think.
Right. Yeah. It makes it a lot more complex. And I don't know, going back to raw just didn't appeal to me ever, because it was just kind of boring after going equipped.
Yeah. And I'm not, I also want to say we're not poo-pooing raw here, but we're just kind of an explanation of why me specifically, I guess what I'm saying, I'm not going to speak for you. But those are the things I enjoy about it. It adds the different dynamics to the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can move on. I think I've kind of derailed us a little bit there. But it was a good
We can do what we want.
Ha! Yes, we can. So Josh, you get to work with a lot of different people. So what are some of the challenges that you get in working with a lot of different people and their different personalities?
Oh, that's a good one. So I first of all, let me just throw my business out there. I don't like to show emotion very much. So I try to stay even keel and not like, when somebody has a really good lift, I don't try to go all crazy and, get super, super excited. And if somebody misses a lift, I don't get too visibly upset. I just like, all right, we'll get it next time or whatever. And the reason that's a challenge is because different personalities want different feedback or different stimulus from you. So, when I'm lifting, like, and that's the irony, like when I'm lifting, I like people, being crazy around me, like screaming in my face, all that stuff. But, what I've found is trying to be that person that's screaming and everything, especially when you're working with a bunch of people at the same meet. And I'll use an example. Well, maybe I shouldn't. I won't. I'll use generic names. So I have one lifter that, is always just real calm and kind of jokes around as we go. And another lifter that, once screamed at and everything. Well, I'm coaching them both at the same meet. And they're kind of going on different platforms at roughly the same time. And I went from one directly to the other. I just came from the lifter that like screamed at, and I ran over to the other lifter and I was in the screaming mindset. So I started yelling at her and she's like freaks out. Like, what are you doing? Like, you've never yelled at me before. I don't like that. What did I do wrong? So it really kind of messed her up. So I guess since that point, I've tried to maintain a steady baseline of what I feel comfortable doing personally as a coach. That way everybody kind of knows what they're going to get. Right. And it might not be exactly what they want, but they know what they're going to get. So it's no surprises, I guess, on meet day. And I will also say that I'm not sure that that's the best way to do it. It's an evolving process for me, because I do want to be that person that says the right thing or gets you fired up in the way you need to. But I also very much don't want to be the person that says the wrong thing that really throws you off your game. So it's kind of a catch-22 that I guess that's where I'm at currently. I'm not sure. You ask me again in 6 months, maybe my perspective will be different on that.
Note to self, I'm going to ask you again in 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think it's challenging. All different people need all different types of responses, and we're all often at a meet kind of at our heightened emotions because we put so much into it, and now we're there on the line, and people get emotional at meets.
Well, hell, I'll give you an example. I'll use you. So I had one lifter in college that I coached that before a third deadlift, she'd always want to get slapped in the face, and I hated doing that. Like, it made me feel weird. But she literally she would time out before she would go out without getting slapped in the face. It was odd. So you were about to do your third deadlift, I believe at the Summer Showdown, one of the meets, and I don't know what happened or what happened to me. Like, I just got so excited, I slapped you in the face right before you went out, and you just looked like, the look on your face, I'll never forget. You're like, what the hell?
What was that?
And it wasn't the look that you were thrown off your game, but it was the look like I'm about to punch you back. So I was kind of taken aback, and of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you missed that lift, right?
I think I did. Yeah.
I think that was the only lift you missed that day. So I don't know if that was the exact reason, but I'm sure it didn't help. So
yeah, it may not have helped.
Yeah.
I think I was just standing there going, I'm not sure what happened. Okay, well, I'm going to get this. I don't know that it affected me adversely. I don't think I made the lift, but I don't know that was why. Because I've had random things happen to me right before my last deadlift before. I remember at my second meet, Dan is my husband, was slapping me on the back, and he kind of like kidney slapped me right before I was deadlifting. I'm like, oh, yeah. Um, so I don't know. I stay fluid, and I kind of just did the best I could.
Yeah, and I think as a lifter, that's something you want to develop too, is like learn to roll with the punches, because you know you don't always get to control your environment. And as a coach, that's what we try to do, is control your environment the best we can. But obviously, when we're warming up in a meet, there's also a whole bunch of other people warming up, and we have to work in and things like that. So we don't control the music that's being played. All those things. So yeah, just being able to roll with the punches is good. But yeah, that's one thing that is still, I don't want to say haunts me, but it's one of those things that it's always in the back of my mind. Like, what the hell happened? Like, why did I just slap you out of nowhere? I've never done that before.
Well, and then I really wanted to play a prank on you, but then I just didn't have the heart to do it because it was being videoed at the time. And I was going to tell you that somebody saw that happen on the video and texted me and was like, oh my gosh, why did he do that?
Right.
But then I just didn't have the heart to do it because you were kind of upset about it.
Yeah, I appreciate you not doing that, because that would have wrecked me.
Yes, we do like to prank each other a lot in this sport.
Yep, it's true.
That's what makes it fun.
Oh yeah.
So do you want to move on to the track of the week from the powerlifting and power ballads part?
Track of the week. So we are in week 3. Track number 3 is, drum roll. I can't do that.
That was not really bad.
Every rose has its thorn from Poison. Your first thoughts, Lara?
I don't like Poison. That one could have been scratched off the album for me. Just never was into him. Sorry. Dead space from Josh. He's like, what? I thought I knew you.
All right. Well, we are currently looking for a new co-host. If anybody out there is interested, that might be a fireable offense. Holy cow. How did I not know that? I need to do more research before, man. I'm not going to lie. My world's upside down right now.
Wow.
You don't like Poison. Son of a gun. All right. We're going to move on because I can't talk about that anymore.
Josh is stymied.
Yeah. So let's do something new. How about some crazy powerlifting story time? What do you got?
All right. Well, I don't know how crazy it is. It's definitely personal, and it's a story, I guess. So in 2014 was my first trip to Masters Worlds, and I was nominated as an alternate on the team. And I was just stoked to go, just, oh my gosh, I get to go to, it was Pilsen, Czech Republic, the Masters Worlds team. It's not, it wasn't a bench only meet that I'd been to before, or a local feeling NAPF meet. This was going, across the ocean with the team. So it was kind of a big deal to me. And, I traveled solo. I was really I still felt like I was very new to the sport because I really had started lifting in like 2012. And, getting nominated to go was just so amazing. So I traveled solo. I was super nervous, but I kind of got this mindset, like, I have nothing to lose. I'm here. I made the team. This is amazing. I have nothing to lose, and I'm just going to go. And every time I started getting nervous, I just told myself that I would put it off. Like, don't be nervous now, because there's nothing to be nervous about right now. Just put it off until you get to the platform. If you want to be nervous then. So I kept just kind of putting that off and not being nervous about it, and thinking like, this whole Masters World team, this is a group that's traveled a lot together before. Everybody knows each other already, and I'm kind of just the newbie. So I felt a little out of place, but, tried to just kind of blend and felt like I wasn't going to give myself the permission to get overly nerved up and like goobered up by it. So when we got there and, lifting started, it was a couple days later, you arrived, which made it feel a little bit better, because now I need like 3 people in the total team. And, I was rooming with Laura Stryland, who, I had told her to, kick me if I snore, because I snore really bad, apparently. And she literally did. She kicked me a couple times. Like every night I'd wake up and be like, did she just kick me? But, you know, lifting actually started, and I kind of just kept putting off being nervous and being nervous. And like the squats went really well. I went 3 for 3 for my squats. I got my first time that I squatted over 400 pounds, which was awesome, even though it was very sideways and a little twisted. But,
to do that on the world stage in another country is a big deal.
Yeah, it was such a great feeling. And, you know, I had my biggest competitor and my rabbit to chase was Jennifer Goudreau, who gave me a great rabbit to chase. She was, you know, it seemed unattainable when I started lifting to get a gold in that, you know, on that type of stage. But as my training had progressed, I thought, well, actually, maybe this is possible. I don't really know, but I've got nothing to lose. I'm coming out of nowhere. Nobody really knows me. I'm the alternate. I'm just going to go and give it my all. And she was a great rabbit to chase. And I think that was the best lifting I have done since, truthfully, because of that. You know, lifting started, I was pretty chill. I got ahead on the squats. She got back. I think we were almost tied going into the deadlifts. You might remember.
I don't remember exactly, but it was definitely close.
It was really close. And then I was like, well, I don't know what's going to happen because I think she can deadlift more than me. I don't really know. And I just I didn't pay attention to what was going on. I just kind of stayed in my own space, put on my headphones, and just let you run the whole thing. And, you know, I knew we were still within striking range, and it literally came down to the last deadlift. And I pulled before her, and I made all 3 of my deadlifts. And then her last deadlift was coming up, and I didn't even know she was pulling for the win. I didn't even know. And I think you told me, and I was like, oh, really? Huh? And then I watched, and it slipped out of her hands. And I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And, you know, it really could have gone another way. If she had just held on to it, maybe she could have dug it out, you know, and but it was just a moment where I was just like, oh my gosh, wait, what just happened? I think I just won. Huh? You know, it was pretty sweet, I gotta say. My first trip to the podium with the, you know, American flag on the top of it, and they played Queen, We Are the Champions. I mean, that was pretty cool. Walking around the city, and then like Mark Henry called me. We're walking around Pilsen, and Mark Henry called me. And I'm like, wait, this is really Mark Henry? Which was really cool just to get his congratulations. And, you know, it was just a really memorable trip. It's great.
That's awesome. I don't know if I knew the Mark Henry part. I don't think he ever told me that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a friend of a friend of mine, and they had been talking about me, and I knew Mark was used to powerlift, and that kind of made my night when Mark Henry called. I was just like,
yeah, that's dang, man, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And then that was the same trip. We had we went up to the top of the cathedral, and we were walking around, and there was a streaker. Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
The streaker guy just ran by, and like nobody batted an eyelid. Like we're
it's like it's commonplace. It's like it's
in the middle of the day in America, people would be like, "Wait, stop the guy streaking!" But
and then he came over and wanted to have a conversation, and I'm like, "Dude, wrong,
on your pants.
wrong guy, man, wrong guy."
Well, I remember asking him like, "Why? Why did you streak through the town?" And he just turned and said, "Why not?
Why not? Why not?" I remember that.
I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good answer.
And looked at us like we were the stupid ones for asking.
Yes, yeah, right. Yeah, there was, and that was the drinking escapade as well, where you got your reputation.
You got to keep coming back to that, don't you?
I went full circle. Did you see that?
I don't know how to drink. I'll just say that. But I guess I want to share my perspective on that a little bit real quick. I know we're out of time, trying to keep our 20-minute limit here, but so I remember that very vividly. Like as Jen was pulling, and I'm really good friends with Jen, but obviously at this meet I was coaching you, and as she's pulling, like I think she's got it, and then it slips out of her hands, and I remember as soon as it slipped out of her hands, like I remember feeling like so excited, and I whispered in your ear, "You just won the meet," and you started freaking out. But then literally like the very next second, like my heart just like sunk, because I'm like, that means Jen just lost. And as her friend, it's like, man, you know, I'm getting choked up.
I know. And
talking about it right now. Like obviously I'm super excited for you. Like no question. But but somebody had to lose. And when you're friends with both people that are lifting it, it makes it kind of hard, especially on that stage. But
yeah, and we never got the chance to really lift against each other again after that, which I missed, truthfully, because I think it made me a better lifter, and it was a nice dynamic.
Yeah,
I missed that.
Yep, I agree. All right, well, we're gonna shut it down here. So don't forget, follow us on social media, specifically Instagram at PL Ballads Podcast. And if you have any complaints or comments, shoot us an email at plballadspodcast@gmail.com.
Yes, thanks, if you love it, wait. If you love it, send me a shout out. If you hate it, blame Josh.
And we'll see who our co-host will be next week when I find somebody that doesn't hate poison.
Oh, bye, guys.
All right. Later, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends.